Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Sip and Talk.
Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you were in, welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Hey, recent international events are just one climax after another. Aren't you tired? I need to take tomorrow off to rest.
Who is the one that always liked to say, with great power comes great responsibility?
Right.
Backing down now. The lens we are uncovering today is how I saw this $2.5 trillion economic gamble while staying up late looking at tariff regulations no one wants to read. But since everyone wants to listen, let's start with this fresh global update about why Iran got bombed and a certain major power in the Taiwan Strait suddenly went as quiet as if they were on vacation.
Oh, so this is the classic, the loudest kid in class suddenly went quiet, they must be up to no good situation, right? Let's quickly get into the news rundown.
Yes, let's do it. And really quick, a huge welcome to all of our incredible Sip and Talkers out there listening. Today, our mission is to explore an incredibly complex $2.5 trillion geopolitical puzzle that is just unfolding across the globe right now.
Yeah, it's a massive web. It really is. We are examining how the world's biggest tech giants, the sudden rise of sovereign AI, and shifting global military movements are just fundamentally tied together. You might think, a new gadget from Silicon Valley has nothing to do with naval movements in the Pacific.
Right, totally separate worlds.
Exactly. But by the end of this conversation, you're going to see exactly how they are two sides of the very same coin.
Oh, 100%. Because the separation between technology and geopolitics, it's completely evaporated. They aren't parallel tracks anymore. They are the exact same track. And to really grasp this, we have to start by looking through, the Silicon Valley lens.
Yeah, let's start there.
So the top 7 tech giants, the Mag 7, right? They're making these moves that look like typical shiny product launches on the surface. But underneath, they are actually these massive strategic maneuvers.
Yeah. And that strategic maneuvering is incredibly visible right now with Apple's upcoming spring event. I mean, the centerpiece they're pushing is Apple Agent.
Right, which sounds like Siri, but it's not.
Not even close. It isn't just a voice assistant for setting your laundry timers or asking about the weather. It is an autonomous entity. It actually crosses between different apps to execute complex tasks all on its own.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. We were talking about an AI that looks at your calendar, opens a travel app, books a flight, cross-references your hotel itineraries, and then just pays for it autonomously using your stored credentials.
And see, on the surface, that sounds like the ultimate consumer convenience, right? Like, wow, my phone just planned my whole trip. But if you look at it from the perspective of a foreign government, it is absolutely terrifying.
Oh, they hate it.
They do.
Yeah.
Imagine you are a sovereign nation. Suddenly, this U.S.-based AI agent is autonomously executing cross-border financial transactions. It's pulling your citizens' personal calendar data, and it's managing all this logistics without a single ounce of human friction.
Just bypassing everything local.
Exactly. It bypasses local digital ecosystems entirely. It ignores local advertising networks. For a country, that is a massive, unacceptable loss of financial and data sovereignty. It's essentially this invisible, unregulated data vacuum just operating freely within your borders.
Yeah, it fundamentally threatens their control over their own digital economies.
Huh?
Because think about it, a local travel agency app in Europe, they cannot compete if the Apple agent just totally bypasses them to use some preferred global vendor based in California.
They're boxed out completely.
Right. And the technology doesn't just stop with the software in your pocket either. The whole wearable AI comeback is in full swing post-MWC 2026.
Oh, the Google Glass revival.
Yes. Google and Meta are just sprinting into this space right now. Google is reportedly reviving the Google Glass Enterprise Edition 3, but this time they are integrating it directly with their Gemini 3.1 Pro model.
Which completely changes the entire paradigm of data collection. I mean, we are moving from looking down at our screens, which that's a conscious, intentional act, to having AI constantly overlaid on our continuous vision of the real world.
Everything you look at.
Exactly. Every single glance becomes a monetizable data point. Think about a warehouse worker in Germany wearing these glasses. That Gemini 3.1 Pro model is processing highly proprietary European industrial data in real time.
And then the obvious questions pop up.
Right. Where does that data go? Who legally owns it? Can a foreign government subpoena that industrial footage?
Those are the exact questions keeping international regulators awake at night right now. And, growing up in California, how does it feel watching this play out from that sort of local Silicon Valley perspective?
It honestly feels surreal. I mean, growing up in California, tech was just these quirky kids down the street coding. really clunky pixelated software in their parents' garages.
Ah, yeah, the garage startup myth.
Totally. We were so excited about a program that could simply, change the color of a font on a screen. It felt like a harmless toy. But looking at it now, that innocent sandbox has completely morphed into this high-stakes geopolitical arena. The tech world has grown up, and the stakes are no longer about user engagement or click-through rates.
No, it's way past that.
It's about national security, infrastructure control, and literally global dominance. It's almost unfamiliar.
And because the stakes have changed so drastically, we really need to talk about the financial reality of this new era. And just a quick reminder for you listening, we are not financial advisors. Any stock, valuation, or financial data we discuss today is strictly for educational or analytical purposes. We are looking at the macro mechanics here, not giving investment advice.
Definitely. Keep your portfolio safe, people.
Exactly. So transitioning to NVIDIA, their CEO, Jensen Huang, recently issued this very serious closed-door warning. He said that the global supply chain is shifting from an efficiency-first model to a security-first model, specifically because of the rise of sovereign AI.
Yeah, and this is a huge pivot, because for the last decade, tech giants operated on incredible, almost ruthless efficiency. They would build these massive centralized data centers in places where land and power were incredibly cheap.
Like next to a hydroelectric dam in the Pacific Northwest.
Exactly. And they served the entire globe from those concentrated, highly optimized hubs. It was a brilliant margin strategy. But with the rise of these new data residency laws, foreign governments are stepping in and demanding that their citizens' data physically stays within their national borders.
You can't just export the data back to California anymore.
Nope. To do business in France now, tech giants have to build a state-of-the-art data center in France. To operate in Japan, they need servers physically humming in Japan. Saudi Arabia requires the exact same localized infrastructure.
So they are essentially forced to build redundant data centers everywhere. This completely dismantles that highly profitable centralized model they've enjoyed for years. Current tracking from financial analyst projects, this is going to increase their capital expenditures by a staggering 15 to 20%.
That is a massive hit.
It's a huge hit. They are undergoing this low-efficiency construction boom right now. They have to buy expensive local real estate. They have to secure local power grid access, negotiate water rights for their cooling systems, and build all of this in environments that, frankly, aren't geographically optimized for heavy computing.
Which structurally just limits their profit margins. I mean, Bloomberg data and other financial trackers are showing margins potentially dropping from a sky-high 80% down to around 65%.
And it isn't just the Capex going up to pour concrete and build these facilities for them.
No, their OPEX operating expenses is hiking too. Because now they have to pay for local regulatory compliance, local legal teams, and highly specialized local engineering talent in every single market they enter. Plus, they're losing their absolute pricing power.
Because of the local competition.
Exactly. They're competing with heavily subsidized localized AI models now, like France's Mistral or the UAE's Falcon model. They aren't the only game in town anymore.
I think the best way to visualize this structural shift is, honestly, through pizza.
Okay, I love this analogy.
Right. So think of a wildly famous global pizza brand. Previously, this tech company just sold their top-secret pizza recipe globally. They emailed the recipe to a restaurant in Paris or Tokyo and just sat back and collected massive royalty fees.
High-margin, asset-light.
Exactly. They practically printed money without ever getting their hands dirty. But now...
Now, with sovereign AI, foreign governments are stepping in and saying, look, you can't just import the pizza recipe anymore. If you want to sell your pizza here, you must physically build a brick-and-mortar oven right in our neighborhood. You have to use our locally grown flour. You have to hire the neighbor down the street to knead the dough. And you have to pass our specific local health inspections.
So they're still selling pizza, and they're still making money.
Oh yeah, they're definitely still making money. But it is hard-earned money now. They are transitioning from this infinite weightless tech expansion to a heavy, localized franchise model. In the financial world, this is a shift toward a public utility valuation. They are basically becoming the electric companies in the 21st century.
Which means, for you, the consumer listening right now, this structural shift will eventually hit your wallet. Because when the cost of doing global business skyrockets due to data residency laws and redundant server farms, the price of every digital subscription, every cloud storage plan, or AI service you use is going to reflect that localized overhead.
It always trickles down to the consumer. And even as AI is completely reshaping global defense in these massive macroeconomic margins, it's simultaneously filtering down into everyday, almost absurd micro-interactions in our lives.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It really shows how inescapable this processing power is becoming at every level of society. And keep in mind, all of this relies on the exact same data centers being restricted by sovereign AI.
Case in point. A new Silicon Valley startup is claiming they've invented an AI pet translator collar.
Of course they have.
Supposedly, this collar uses advanced machine learning to translate your cat's meows into human intent with 85% accuracy. It is wild to think that the same underlying neural network architectures driving national security debates in Washington are being strapped to a tabby cat in a living room.
I feel like this collar is finally going to expose the cold, hard truth about pet ownership. My cat doesn't love me, it actually disguises me, and it just wants me to open the expensive tin of fish and leave the room immediately.
It's probably just going to say, "Human, you are in my light. Move."
Exactly. Just constant demands.
And if that isn't enough AI for your daily life, there's actually a new AI robot in Japan right now that cooks Ichiran quality ramen in exactly 45 seconds.
No way. 45 seconds.
45 seconds.
Yeah.
And it automatically scans the customer's current body temperature as they walk up, and it adjusts the saltiness and richness of the broth perfectly to match their physiological state in that exact moment.
So the robot literally knows your sodium needs better than you do?
Basically, yeah.
That's the ultimate comfort food, just fully optimized by an algorithm. But, the real irony here is that the seamless operation of that ramen robot computing your thermal data in real time, it relies on the exact same edge computing and semiconductor supply chains that are currently at the center of a massive, tense geopolitical tug-of-war.
And that brings us perfectly into the policy lens. Because while California might view all this through the lens of tech innovation and, corporate growing pains, looking at the geopolitical reshuffle paints a picture of a massive restructuring of global power.
The whole different game now.
It is. There was a time when policy and trade laws were just minor speed bumps for tech companies. You'd pay a fine, you'd hire a good lobbyist, and you'd just keep innovating. Now, those laws are the concrete track walls steering the entire direction of the industry.
And the shift detailed in the 2026 U.S. National Defense Strategy, the NDS, highlights this perfectly. Taiwan is now actively being evaluated to join a joint ammunition production chain,
which is a huge escalation in their role.
Massive. Historically, Taiwan's role in the global supply chain has overwhelmingly been about providing advanced semiconductors, the brains of the operation. This NDS evaluation means Taiwan might begin assembling U.S. defensive weapons directly.
So leaping from supplying the chips to actively building the physical defense architecture.
Exactly. And alliances are tightening everywhere to protect the digital infrastructure that makes all of this possible. Japan's new intelligence command chief just announced the establishment of real-time intelligence sharing with both Taiwan and Australia.
And that's specifically about the oceans, right?
Yes. The specific goal is to monitor and protect undersea cable security in the Western Pacific. Those cables are the physical arteries of this $2.5 trillion digital economy. If they are compromised or severed, the entire cloud infrastructure goes dark.
And obviously, Beijing isn't just sitting still while all this happens. Their counter-strategy is highly, highly calculated. To bypass U.S. high-end equipment restrictions, China is actively establishing a shadow supply chain for semiconductor packaging and testing.
Right, pushing into Southeast Asia.
Exactly. They are heavily investing in back-end facilities in countries like Malaysia and Vietnam. While the U.S. might restrict the cutting-edge manufacturing equipment used to actually print the chips themselves, Beijing is building this incredibly robust back-end infrastructure in neighboring countries to handle the final packaging and testing. It keeps their broader tech ecosystem flowing through alternative routes.
It's very smart workaround. And on top of that, they are also building a massive financial defense line against potential Swiss banking sanctions.
The digital currency push.
Yes, they are aggressively pushing the digital yuan, the ECNY, specifically for energy trades with the Middle East and Russia. It's a deliberate, strategic move to decouple their energy survival from the U.S. dollar system. If they're ever locked out of Western banking, they still absolutely need to be able to buy the oil that powers their nation.
Which brings us right back to the core mystery you teased at the very beginning of the show, the connection between the Middle East and the Taiwan Strait.
The loudest kid in class going quiet.
Precisely. Recently, high-precision airstrikes hit key facilities in Iran. And immediately following those strikes, the People's Liberation Army drastically reduced their harassment activities in the Taiwan Strait. The frequency of them crossing the median line dropped significantly for 3 consecutive days.
See, I initially wanted to believe that was a sign of de-escalation. Like maybe world events have a linked switch and tension in one area naturally cools down another. Like, hey, less threat of war is good for tech stocks, right?
I mean, we all want to believe that. But looking at the defense think tank data, including some really recent analysis we've been reviewing, they frame this quiet period much more ominously. They don't call it peace. They call it a strategic pause.
Huh. Okay. So quiet doesn't mean safe.
Exactly. It means they are pausing for a reason. And there are 3 distinct theories driving this strategic pause. The first is the battlefield rehearsal theory.
Walk me through that.
So, Iran relies heavily on Chinese-made air defense systems, specifically the export version of the HQ-9B radar. When those airstrikes hit Iran, it wasn't just an isolated attack in the desert. From Beijing's perspective, it was a real-world stress test of their own hardware against modern, sophisticated precision strikes.
Oh, wow. So they were watching their own tech get tested in real time.
Exactly. The PLA's pause in the Taiwan Strait isn't a retreat. They are furiously digesting this fresh battlefield data to adjust their A2AD, their anti-access area denial tactical parameters. They're staying home to study the game film. They need to figure out exactly how those precision strikes bypass their radar systems so they can patch the vulnerability in their own coastal defenses before they make another move.
That makes total sense. They're gathering data. And the second theory centers on what analysts are calling an energy hostage crisis, which connects directly back to what we were just saying about their push for the ECNY.
Right, the oil dependency.
Yes. China's economy is highly dependent on foreign oil. Projections for 2025 show that China relies on Iran for roughly 14% of its imported crude oil.
Which is a massive chunk of their energy grid.
It is. If a conflict in the Middle East escalates and a critical choke point like the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, global energy costs will skyrocket overnight.
And a spike like that could utterly collapse that $2.5 trillion economic gamble we've been tracking.
Exactly. Beijing simply couldn't afford to waste resources and attention on harassing Taiwan when their critical Middle Eastern energy lifeline was suddenly in active jeopardy. They had to immediately shift their focus westward to secure the oil that keeps their factories producing and those massive new AI data centers running.
It's all connected. And then there's the third perspective, which is often called the false cooling trap by critics and defense analysts. This theory suggests that this quiet period could be induced strategic fatigue.
Like a head fake.
Exactly. By intentionally feigning weakness or distraction during a moment of global chaos in the Middle East, Beijing hopes that the US, Japan, and Taiwan will breathe a sigh of relief and basically lower their guard.
They want everyone to relax.
Right. It's a calculated test to observe the elasticity of the U.S. military's reaction under the intense pressure of a potential two-front crisis. They want to see, can the U.S. handle a flare-up in the Middle East and maintain full readiness in the Pacific simultaneously?
Testing the limits of the system.
Exactly. Furthermore, some intelligence circles heavily suspect this pause is a smokescreen. They think Beijing is secretly reprioritizing ammunition, logistics, and supplies toward Russia or Iran, completely under the radar while everyone is looking the other way.
The silence in the strait feels so much heavier when you connect those dots. It really illustrates how deeply intertwined the globe has become today.
Every action has a reaction.
Right. A bomb drops in the Middle East, which forces a strategic military pause in the Pacific, which then impacts the supply chain of advanced semiconductors, which ultimately dictates whether a tech giant in California can afford to build a local data center in France to comply with new sovereign AI laws.
Every single domino is touching the next one. And as we wrap up today's conversation, it's really vital to reiterate the core philosophy we hold here at Sip&Talk. We strive to always maintain a truly international objective perspective. We've talked about the U.S., Taiwan, Japan, China, Iran, and Europe today.
A true world tour.
Yes. And we want to be explicitly clear. No country, no group, and no people are being criticized or discriminated against in this discussion. Our goal is strictly to provide you with objective facts to encourage independent, critical thinking about this incredibly complex world we share.
Because knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied. And looking at multiple perspectives is honestly the only way to cut through the noise today.
It really is.
But before we go, this whole discussion raises one final important question for you to mull over. We've seen that tech giants are essentially becoming public utilities, heavily bound by local data laws, right? And we've seen that modern military strategies rely heavily on the exact same AI data processing capabilities.
So what happens when the very AI models we use to optimize global supply chains or, translate for our pets are suddenly tasked with deciding geopolitical trade-offs in real time?
That's the billion-dollar question. What happens when an autonomous algorithm is the one balancing a Middle Eastern energy crisis against a Pacific semiconductor shortage? Something to think about.
Fascinating and terrifying all at once.
Truly.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us and exploring these complex lenses with us. Please make sure to subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast so you never miss a conversation.
And we also want to give a huge shout out to our old friend Mickey. He has been traveling the world and capturing some amazing moments. Be sure to check out his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life, to see his latest incredible travel vlogs.
Definitely go check Mickey out. His stuff is great. Until our next conversation, stay insanely curious, keep looking at the big picture, and we will catch you next time. Goodbye.